What's good, y'all? Welcome back, boys and girls. Welcome back to a very excellent race this past weekend. And guys, hey, listen, there was some good, there was some bad. Let me just get to the bad. Lance Stroll, man, jeez, him and I think Dane Rick, I think he hit Dane Rick from like behind. Pause, no diddy, and well, it was a good day for Red Bull Cash App and Junior. I think Yuki had a blown tire. Dane Rick obviously got hit. Valtteri Bottas had a bad day as well. Didn't finish the race. That was the bad. Yeah, that was the bad. Plus, it was at 3 in the morning, so I kind of slept through it, and I watched the highlights last night. But congrats to Verstappen again, winning again. Checo proving to be the top secondary driver. Finished second, and I think third was Lando. I think, or Leclerc. I could be wrong though. I could be wrong. But I think third was Lando. Fernando Alonso, which the video today is about Fernando, just indirectly. Shout out to Fernando again with another top 10 finish. I think Nico Hulkenberg finished P10. So shout out Nico. Shout out to Haas team for getting some points. But you guys let me know you guys thoughts about the race this weekend in general. Cool race. Good to be back in China. Now, if I'm correct, I think we have the European scene get ready to kick off now. That's going to be freaking terrific. I can't wait for that. So, it's going to be good. It's going to be amazing, boys and girls. The oldest F1 race winner ever. Now, with Fernando Alonso being the oldest F1 driver in F1 now, I need to see out the oldest F1 winner. Now, I think we've kind of spoke on this a small tad bit, I think, over records that will be broken, stuff like that. But in terms of a full video focus on it, I don't think we have. Shout out to my dog Josh Ravel. All credit goes to him, big time. Let's start, man. Let's get it. Let's get it. Whoa.
When you look at these images, you just know that them early days of Formula One were strange time.
Hold up. First of all, why is the car so close towards the team pit, and Buddy is just running right next to it, bro? Get the hell out of the way.
And yeah, the pit stop boys may look at this crusty old footage and think,
actual racing? I don't give a fuck.
but y'all who know the sport know that for some of the better, more interesting, more messed up stories in the sport, you've got to head back to a time where people drove without seatbelts, there were still tracks made of wood, and people where they drank. What a time to be a racing fan. In 1951, there were only 8 rounds in that year's F1 championship.
I see a Switzerland. Switzerland, we don't have to do that. We still got, the Belgian Grand Prix, France, Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain. So they knocked off the main European countries. And obviously, the story history behind the Indy 500 kissing the bricks. Switzerland. What happened to Switzerland? Did we just
Only
say
3 were on permanent
that's it?
racetracks, and because one of them was the Indianapolis 500, and it was run within mere days of the Swiss Grand Prix, no driver ever did the full 8 rounds. It also meant that half the tracks used that year were technically street circuits. So, take that, people who say that we've got too many street circuits nowadays. We're merely going back to our roots. Of these 8 rounds, however, we're only going to focus on one. It was in northern France, in Reims.
France.
On the 1st of July, the track played host to the French Grand Prix, as well as the European Grand Prix. It was the exact same race, but promoters back then gave races more titles than Godzilla movies. Although, rather than having 2 monsters go at each other, the battle of that July day was between Ferrari and Alfa Romeo.
Let's just keep going. I was going to say something. Let's just keep going.
A time where Italy dominated Grand Prix racing. Both teams had all the best drivers in the world and
childish.
everything in
Let's
between
keep
going
going.
for them, as opposed to the Talbot Lagos, which were too slow, and the Simca Gordinis, which always broke down before they had a chance to show how slow they were. It was a nice hot summer day in northern France, almost ideal conditions for racing, especially back then when the cars were, to put it one way, well ventilated. Pole position was taken by the Alfa Romeo of Juan Manuel Fangio, an annoyingly
know him.
common sight. They didn't call this guy El Maestro for nothing. In second was the guy that beat him to the world title the year prior, Nino
Ascari.
Farina. What was
Oh.
the gap between the two? Well, put it to you this way. The gap between first and last in Q1 of the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix, 1.2 seconds. The gap between first and second in the 1951 French Grand Prix, 1.7 seconds. Yeah, racing was way closer back in the day.
Yeah.
Field spread back then was measured using calendars. Anyways, the Ferraris and the Alfa Romeos annihilated the field, taking the top 7 places. The straggler of the bunch being Luigi Fagioli. For all those that
Luigi.
uttered, who is Luigi Fagioli? The mad disrespect. He was a veteran Grand Prix driver who started racing back in 1926. By 1951, however, he was seasoned. Just a couple weeks
Boy.
prior, he
That hairline is done. Golly, my guy, I just cut it off. I just cut it off, my guy. Well, that hairline is absolutely done. I mean, that's, what's that, is that a widow's peak, you could say? But, hey, that shit worse than that.
celebrated his 53rd birthday by virtue of being born in a time when Arthur Morgan was still alive. The idea of a 53-year-old frail, wizened man racing in Formula 1 is
53.
ludicrous nowadays, but the man they called the Abruzzi Rubber could still hang with the best of
Abruzzi.
them, and to this day, he maintains the second highest podium percentage in the history of Formula 1.
Oh, bro,
Which is
fine.
extremely interesting, but it hadn't been a long time since he won his last Grand Prix, the Monaco Grand Prix. 16 years earlier. He likely weren't going to win today because he qualified 7.4 seconds slower than Fangio. Probably not a reflection of how he was as a driver. Fangio was the guy in that team. He got all the preferential treatment, but hey, who knows? Maybe his car will blow up. It is Italian after all. The green flag drops and Fangio shoots off into the lead. Same old 70,000 spectators in the crowd have come to see the Argentine GOAT run around for 77 laps to another victory, although the Ferrari behind him had other ideas. He may have looked like a warthog, but Alberto Ascari was the only real threat to Fangio in this time. By the end of the first lap, he passed him for the lead, and now we really did have a race on our hands here. It was all going grand, but the Rome circuit was notoriously tough on cars, and with a Ferrari leading the race, that fairy tale could never last. With 10 laps in the books, it was Ascari leading from Fangio, Luigi Villorisi, and in his first ever Formula 1
Luigi.
race, Big Gonzo.
Hey, big fella. Big fella.
Wait, hang on. What's that sound? Oh no, it's Ascari's Ferrari breaking down. The gearbox had seized and that was that. Fangio was back in the lead, and with Villorisi moving into second, Alfa Romeo were in complete control of the race. It sounds really weird to say that nowadays, but hey, nothing between these 2 years is comparable. Fangio was running away to victory until his car developed a misfire. He headed for the pit lane. The mechanics looked over it, worked their magic, and sent him on his way. But immediately, it was obvious that the mercurial Italian engineers had indeed attempted to use actual magic to fix his Alfa Romeo. Oh well,
Yeah,
with the train, he
they
returned
ain't
to the
do
pit
nothing.
lane to have the issue fixed via conventional means. But this meant that he started to lose lap after lap as the time trickled down, and his opponents were still circulating. All of this meant that Nino Farina was leading the race from Villorisi and Old Man River in third, Luigi Fagioli. Despite being seasoned, he started to claw his way forward and was making good headway. He came into the pit lane for more fuel, and while he was there, the team manager tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Get out. We're putting Fangio in this car." Now, back in the day, teams were allowed to swap drivers in the middle of the race. The drivers would have to split the points, but for the teams, wins were what mattered. A driver
Oh my god. No. Imagine. Checo Perez is in first place with like a few laps to go. Red Bull call and Checo to swap basically his seat for Verstappen. Oh my god. Now, like you say, it was different back then. But oh my god. Oh, I'll be pissed off. Oh, I'll be so pissed off, man. Oh my god.
his points and literal mortality, not so much. So, there was Fagioli being forced to give up his car whilst in a good position, a position to potentially win the race. But knowing he was under contract, Fagioli stepped out, rather reluctantly, and handed the car over to Fangio, whose
Is he
smouldering
drinking?
heat was given to Fagioli. Oh jeez, thanks lads, I always wanted one of these things. After all, what is an Alfa Romeo without
That boy took
smoking
a freaking
from
gulp
it?
of
The
beer or
gall
something.
of these guys, to treat him with such a level of disrespect enraged the Abruzzi robber. And I mean, can you really blame him?
That's
Ferrari
crazy.
saw Alfa Romeo hot swapping their drivers, and thus told Big Gonzo to hand his car over
Big
to
Gonzo.
Ascari. Given Gonzalez was a new boy, he didn't mind taking a knee for the evil empire. But despite Ferrari's best driver now at the helm, the fact was this: Fangio was right behind him in a healthy car. in a fast car, and he was gunning it. He broke the lap record over and over and over again. He ended up setting a lap record 8 seconds faster than the one previously set. Juan Manuel Fangio was proving right here and there why he was one of the greatest drivers the world had ever seen. Farina was still leading until he came in for his pit stop, where nothing happened. He went back out and continued on his merry way, leading the Grand Prix. And then his tyre blew. Then he came in for an unscheduled pit stop, and that's when things turned catastrophically Italian. This gave the lead to Ascari before his car encountered brake problems. He came into pit, and Fangio went back into first place. And he would keep that first place for the remainder of the race, and would bring home the dub for Alfa Romeo. The rules being what they were, it meant that there were 5 drivers on that freaking podium, and that Fangio's win would be shared with Fagioli. This made Luigi Fagioli, at the age of 53 years and 22 days old, the oldest Formula 1 Grand Prix winner of all time.
Hey, that's
Formula
hard.
1 Grand Prix winner, no less. And he was beyond pissed off. He knew he wasn't the driver that he once was, but to be told to make way for another driver was the biggest insult of all. This was his first Grand Prix win, but it would also be his last, and it would also be his last Formula 1 race ever, because after this fiasco, he quit. Despite this acrimonious departure, his legacy does still remain. No driver has ever won a Grand Prix at a more seasoned age. In fact, it's not even close, and he still maintains the second highest podium percentage of all time in Formula 1, right behind Dino Serafini. Wait, who the f*** is Dino Serafini?
I will say, yes, I get it. A win is a win. But I'm not trying to get a win like that. That's how I get my win. Because you are disrespecting me to take me out my seat, to put in somebody better. Who he is better than me, sure, yeah, but I earned that position. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Hey, but shout out to Berto. Hey, 53 years old, first F1 win. Last F1 race, his only win. Hey, a win is a win. As always, shout out to Josh with the video. All credit goes to him. Don't forget to like and sub. See you guys then. Peace.